Now for global business updates, Rotus Oddiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Yes, thanks Zeus. It's Friday. Good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning, Fine. So, good morning, Vimbai. Good morning to all our viewers. All right, another day, another tariff. What else is new? Donald Trump announcing that he's going to put a hit, threaten Canada with a 35% tariff. He's gone back to his openly disputed fentanyl allegations that fentanyl is crawling over the border. He seems to be running out of excuses now. So he says, effective August 1st. Let's quickly take a look at a tweet from Mark Carney, who responded saying that, look, we are doing the best we can. Look, I won't read the whole thing. He just basically said that, listen, we're addressing this fentanyl crisis and Canada is working with the United States. We've done something called the Trump tariff tango, where he's basically threatened tariffs to everyone you can think of. Effective August, this is not the new dates. 50% on copper, 50% on Brazil, 35% on Canada, 200% on pharmaceuticals. He says he's going to put a letter out to the EU this weekend. So the EU, you guys get ready as well for your own tariff announcement. But again, as we point out, the taco trade is in play. The markets, Asian markets are up. Europe was up yesterday. I think the UK, US, the market has seemed to have this. He's crying wolf at this point. To Europe, Eutelsat, which is supposed to be a European competitor to Starlink, has got a commitment of 163 million euros from the UK. As you know, Keir Starmer just concluded a 2 or 3 day trip to France. He had a long press conference with Emmanuel Macron. They announced aid for Ukraine and so many other things. To date, they raised about 1.5 billion. It's all part of the what they do is it's low orbit communication services, basically internet and so on, just like what Starlink does. But they haven't raised as much money as Starlink. We got UK. Speaking of the UK, we got UK GDP data just this morning, contracting by 0.1% month on month. Markets are expecting plus 0.1%. Very tepid growth in the UK, and the Office of National Statistics, or is it the OBR, excuse me, has come out with a statement saying that, look, the fiscal structure for the UK, it's on shaky ground. They've got to do a lot more to cut spending. But then you've got the Labour Party backbenchers who are putting pressure on Starmer not to cut those subsidies. So it's a real tightrope that Starmer and Rachel Reeves are walking right now. Get to Nigeria. Look, the news coming out of Nigeria has been pretty encouraging. We already talked about this. Now, just expansion. We'll start with GTCO. We talked about the listing. We broke this news a while back that it was happening when they were exploring it. GTCO has now listed on the London Stock Exchange, looking to raise about $100 million. They want to meet the Central Bank of Nigeria's threshold, 500 billion for the big banks with the international license. Segun Agbaje said they want to be strategic. That's the Group Chief Executive Officer of GTCO, saying that they want to be strategic about their expansion. So they're looking at Asia and some other regions, but he's really strategic about it. He said, we clearly are under-branched in many of our markets, so part of what we are going to do is expand our branch network to deepen business in countries we already operate in. There is no point in being in 30 countries and not being dominant. Our target is to be top 5 in every country we operate in. About 68% of profits come from Nigeria, with the trickling from other regions where they're in. But they're looking at Asia as we speak. UBA also looking at expansion. They had a business briefing not too long ago in Lagos. This is Group Managing Director, CEO Oliver Awaba, says UBN's vision is clear. We are building a truly global institution anchored in Africa, but serving customers across continents. So they have a wide expansion strategy. Further strategic expansion positions us to unlock new opportunities, support intra-Africa trade, and deliver world-class banking services wherever clients choose to do business. So they're also on the expansion part. The Dangote Refinery, setting up this 1.6 million fuel storage in Namibia. It's a logistics play. The Dangote Refinery is looking at distributing fuel across Southern Africa. Botswana, who was defeated by Nigeria yesterday, 1-0 at the death. I think Aaron Oebi will talk about that. Botswana, Southern Africa, much of that region, they are looking at to cut logistics costs by setting up those large fuel tanks of the oil crude oil that they refine and then distribute it. So it's a logistics play. Don't forget, they are planning on expanding across Nigeria August the 15th with those 4,000 CNG trucks plus those CNG stations. So look, it's again, Enugu State with their airline. We talked about Ondo State and a new refinery that's being planned there. Lagos State African Development Bank is funding a feasibility study for an orange line. You had the Lagos Investment Summit, summits everywhere. The corporate news coming out of Nigeria, I have to say, with the expansion plans for many companies and so on, is pretty encouraging.
That's pretty encouraging, Rotus, especially when you look at the bank guys, Rotus. These guys are barely 30 years before, you know,
when they took the leadership,
right, pretty much liberalized the sector and all of that.
Yeah.
But they've taken leadership all over Africa, and that's the amazing thing about the Nigerian spirit.
Yeah.
And that's why we say leadership matters a great deal. Once you can harness this spirit, then it's unprecedented. Look at Dangote, for instance, going into the Southern African market. So two products in the Southern African market now. Cement.
Yep.
And it's also going there with oil.
Yep.
Nigeria is beginning to become a net exporter of oil. The Dangote Refinery has kicked off, but the question is, what about the NNPC refinery we put money in? That has not kicked off. So hopefully...
Well, there's new. Oh, wait, isn't today? When is July 10th? No.
It was yesterday. They didn't show up.
Yeah, but there's just to remind everybody, the Senate Committee on Public Accounts had that 10-day ultimatum for them to show up.
July did not show up.
Okay, so is there an arrest warrant now, or have they no move from them?
No,
well, thanks for reminding us.
I mean, you know how the Senate behaves. So, with due respect, and that's why the argument for me was not valid, that the NNPC did withdraw its investment in Dangote Refinery in the name of I'm fixing my own. If that $2 billion
had been put,
in Dangote Refinery, the NNPC will be having a good time. They'll say they're part of something big today. They will also say they're part of the expansion going to Southern Africa at this point in time. But that money today, we can't account for it. Where's Warri Refinery? Where's Port Harcourt Refinery? You know, when we released the report that time that Port Harcourt Refinery was pretty much blended, they said, "Oh, you're a liar, you're a liar, you're a liar."
Well, that was under old leadership.
Protested against us.
True. There's new leadership now. The board has been cleared. Give them a chance. I think
but
give them a
under
chance.
this administration, it's not under Tinubu that Tinubu promised that the refineries are. Didn't President Tinubu celebrate that refineries are working?
Right.
Did it work? It didn't work.
True. Leadership has been cleared out. So we'll move forward to see how it works.
Demands that the government should be able to tell us what
fair points.
Promised labor. That new refinery is coming on stream. They bragged about the Port Harcourt refinery is producing. When we told them, saying a lie, they said we are stupid.
Well, we have Dangote Refinery now on the public-private side. So it's still under the same administration.
Go ahead.
All right, still on Dangote. I think it's a fantastic opportunity, and I hope it'll be a breath of fresh air for Southern Africa, because currently that market is dominated by fuel coming out of South Africa and Mozambique. Mozambique doesn't refine, so that means that's imports coming in from all over the rest of the world. So that means that you have landlocked countries like your Zimbabwe's, your Botswana, and so forth that have very expensive fuel. Exactly. So through this model, hopefully it can bring a little bit of reprieve, inject a little bit of much needed competition into Southern Africa with regards to petroleum products, because currently I know companies like Sasol, and then you have your traditional players who pretty much dominate and call whatever prices they feel like. In Zimbabwe you can pay $1.50 as high as that for fuel, which is extremely high.
Have high electricity
and we have Zimbabwe is a very expensive country to live. And just to round up on Donald Trump and the tariffs, what got my attention was 200% on pharmaceuticals, which almost felt like a bit of a not so subtle jab to India. Even after Narendra Modi has done all he has done to try and appease Donald Trump. But
is that BRICS?
It really is. But I think the good thing is that he said that will probably take a year and a half to kick in, because of course you can't just block medication from coming into the country. So let's see whether they can do the dance and meet halfway.
Trump tango, tariff tango.
Okay, let's start from home. I think that the Dangote Refinery, 650,000 barrels per day, $20 billion plus investment. When that refinery came on stream, what we were saying was that, look, this is a major achievement, not just for Nigeria, but also for the whole of Africa. And that for Nigeria specifically, you have creation of jobs, you have opportunities. It will also help us address our foreign exchange challenges. And now we have seen again the viability of that investment on the large African scale. So Dangote Refinery has been asked to help construct a storage facility at Walvis Bay, which is a port in Namibia. So it's a storage facility. What it means is that instead of the countries in that region depending on Europe or elsewhere for the supply of finished product, you will have the Dangote Refinery supplying that market in Namibia, in Botswana. In fact, I understand they are still going to maybe the Democratic Republic of Congo. That's right. Now, they've found oil in Namibia, but it's still at the early stage. Maybe tomorrow we'll wake up and hear that, the Dangote Refinery is building a facility in Namibia. Yeah. So this is about vision. This is about commitment and about possibilities. I said the same for the two banks that you talked about. Guarantee Trust, GTCO, that's the holding company, going to the London Stock Exchange. And also UBA expanding. This says something about, the health of Nigerian banks, their capacity to compete at the international level, which has always been the objective in this particular industry. UBA, for the Union Bank for Africa, for example, has branches in about 20 countries. Right. They are also in, in Europe, just as GT is also everywhere. Yeah. Zenith, Access, So these banks, they promote the Nigerian brand. Indeed. And they again show us what can be achieved with innovation. Finally, Donald Trump, the one I'm more concerned about is the fact that the White House has been querying Jerome Powell. Yeah. That will they be able to remove Jerome Powell? He doesn't think so. Yeah. He says they will be violating the law. And that saying he's been playing around with budget is just a way to give him a bad name. Yeah. Thank you very much.
In his office.
Yes. They said he was spending too much money on his office.